And good evening, everybody, and welcome to Going Nuclear, full-blown coverage of the land. I am Ethan Greenberg, and joining me tonight, as always, my co-host Madison Delaney, and special guest, Detroit Lions fan, Jason Heron. What is happening, my friends? Look at that. Pumped up here. How's everybody doing this evening? Jason, you're on a bit of a high here.
Unbelievable. My entire life, the Lions have only won one playoff game until 2 weeks ago. Now we won two in a row. Like, I'm not used to this. I'm wearing my Lions gear in late January for the first time in my life. Strangers are hugging me and high-fiving me. Like, the whole city of Cleveland's rooting for Detroit. It seems like the whole country is. Oh, it's good to be alive, baby. I am in a very, very good mood.
Madison, how are you doing this evening?
Not as good as Jason, but that's okay. I did see someone get out at Whole Foods in the parking lot in a Lions jersey last weekend, and I said, good luck. Not that they had any control, but, I like to spread the wealth.
It is always good to spread the wealth, and it's just amazing how sports can bring people together, and especially when you're talking about fan bases like the Lions, like the Browns, teams that have long, I guess to use a phrase, long suffered. Haven't seen the success that other franchises have had, Patriots, etc., the Chiefs in the past, 6 years or whatever it is. But so it's amazing how all people can come together over sports. Very interesting. Should be some great matchups, and we will delve into that here a little bit. And Jason, we were talking a little bit here. You said you're home this evening, taking a little break. You have a new endeavor, and you're in Cleveland. Tell us about your new endeavor.
Yeah, so I bought a bar. It's the Old Spotted Dog in Brooklyn, which is right outside downtown Cleveland. It's an iconic bar. It's been there 30 years. The owner just decided to move on and buy a bar closer to his home. He went to Kent State. I went to Kent State, so we hit it off, and I got to buy it from him, and it's been great. So I bought it on the 15th. I've been there every night until tonight. So I feel like I'm cheating on the bar, but it feels good to get away. Good to see you too. But yeah, it's been great. I'm meeting a lot of the regulars there. We're bringing a lot of people in. We're going to start doing karaoke and trivia and all kinds of fun stuff once we do the grand opening in a week or two. But yeah, it's called Headquarters Bar and Grill, which is great because on Sundays it'll be Cleveland Browns headquarters. On St. Patrick's Day, it'll be St. Patrick's Day headquarters. Super Bowl headquarters. Any headquarters you want. So yeah, it's been fun and it's going to be a blast.
So headquarters, you said it's Headquarters Bar and Grill.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, great. Now, how is the website up yet, or that's coming along?
We have the Facebook page up. We have the Instagram page up. The website will be up by this weekend. She's just waiting to get her food menu, which I just got texted me while I'm sitting here. And we're having a farewell to Spotted Dog party on Friday night. And we're going to take a bunch of pictures, put that on the website. So we'll have a website live this weekend.
And
it's headquarterscleveland.com is the website.
Headquarterscleveland.com. Okay, we will have to post that here.
I hope that's right.
Well, we'll look.
If that's not right, I just gave a free picture to somebody else, but I think that's it.
Well, we'll look it up and we will get that posted because we obviously want your bar to succeed here. So you talk about as a bar owner and just kind of something that I was thinking about. You said, well, it's going to be Browns headquarters on Sundays. Are you going to have a special place in the bar? Like there's Browns backers everywhere. Are you going to have an area for Lions backers?
No. So I am like a psycho when I'm watching the Lions, and to protect my customers, I'm not going to watch the games there. I've been known to throw things. I've been known to say some 4-letter words, especially other officials when they screw us over. So yeah, I'm going to go to my normal bar that has Lions games on, and then I'll go to my bar after the games. But yeah, but all the Cleveland Browns games will be on all the TVs, and all the regulars are pumped about it. I put a big Browns flag up when you walk in. I'm going to put some Kent State gear in because the MAC tournament's in Cleveland, and we're going to get the Kent State fan base there before and after the games. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast. It's good. Like I said, so it'll be MAC headquarters. It'll be March Madness headquarters. Anything you want.
Sounds like a good plan to end up not on bar rescue. So
yes. And the women's Final Four is coming to Cleveland, so we're going to have that as well.
Yeah.
Madison, will you be in attendance at the women's?
I am trying to, but I think the only way I'll get up there is if Iowa loses before the Final Four.
Yeah, they're saying if Caitlin Clark makes the game, the ticket price is going to go up.
I mean, they're already up above like 300, I think, to get in, I believe. I mean, it's already everyone's here. if she loses, and there's a lot of other really, really good talent in
Yeah.
basketball right now, so people would be missing out. But I do understand the allure of Caitlin Clark.
Yeah. For the city, I hope she makes it. But for my friends that want to go to the games, obviously the ticket price go down. But if she comes to Cleveland in the Final Four, I mean, it's going to be the place to be. It's every station in town will be here covering that. She's a superstar.
Yeah,
she is, and with superstardom comes super flopping.
Oh, that was not a flop. Get out of here.
Oh, come on. Okay.
You got run over.
I'm gonna call foul on that. I'm gonna cry foul. I watched the video. There was extension of the arms, and then more so, my biggest issue was, while I agree that the storming the court is out of control, and storming the field is not a good thing because it does endanger players.
Someone's going to get seriously hurt one of these days, like a coach, or it's going to be terrible.
Right, but I do think she played it up a little bit. And in my opinion, but that's okay. Everyone's entitled to that.
I mean, if she broke her collarbone, she's like 100 points away from breaking the all-time record. If she broke a bone because she got decked because neither of them were looking at each other, that is
right. So the
pretty serious situation.
Right. Yeah. So I would agree that the first problem, or I would hypothesize and say that the first problem is the storming the floor, storming the field thing is out of control in college sports. It needs to stop. I understand it's very difficult to do so, but you don't see it in pro sports. Am I wrong?
I helped tear down the goalpost when Kent State beat Youngstown State, snapping like a 2-year losing streak.
Right. There you go. Hey, that's a big accomplishment.
1995, I believe that was. I'm aging myself, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. We carried the goalpost on my front porch, and we had a big keg party that night.
Nice. Very nice. So, okay. So now also as a bar owner, in this day and age with all of the varying streaming services and so on and so forth. So for example, we're talking about, and this was a big deal this past weekend, in the wild card weekend, when they showed the Miami Kansas City game exclusively on Peacock. How much of an issue is that for you as a bar owner? And do you have to jump through a bunch of hoops to try to navigate all these services like Amazon Prime for Thursday night games?
Yeah, so that was before I bought the bar, and they didn't have smart TVs then, and we're getting some before the Super Bowl. But I talked to a lot of bar owners, and it's a terrible problem. First of all, when you're streaming, it's hard to link up all the audio to all the TVs because it's different signals are coming. And second of all, if you have like your bartenders just put their password in and try to get it for free, it's a $15,000 fine if you get caught. And Peacock hired people to go to bars to catch them illegally streaming it. And that started when Ohio State played on Peacock down in Columbus. And a lot of those bars got busted trying to do that. Like it's a Peacock. Listen, I get what they're trying to do, and they're doing the Summer Olympics on Peacock, and they're trying to get people to, log on and keep it. But for small business owners, it's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, that just seems like an awful plan, or it's brilliant business by them. And the NFL doesn't care. They got theirs. They got their big money, and they don't care. I did in fact get Peacock so that I could watch the game, but I didn't. They don't even have free trials. So I had paid $6 and I immediately canceled because I'm like, I'm not going to continue this service. The idea, if you recall, again, I'm going to date myself. Do you remember the Olympics in the 90s when NBC had the triple cast?
Yeah, I think so. It sounds familiar.
It was a pay-per-view thing to watch all the events live as opposed to just the evening coverage.
So why did you do that?
Right. So this is not their first foray into trying to screw people.
Right. Yeah, I get it. I mean, there's a lot of backlash. The bar I was at that night, because that's before I bought the bar, they didn't have the game on because they couldn't do it, and half the people left to go home. It's terrible.
Well, it wasn't much of a game anyways.
Wasn't the Browns game right before that? The Browns was. Yeah. So people were devastated in Cleveland anyway. So that might have been the reason they were going home.
Yes, that may have been. So, okay, cool beans. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the NFL playoffs. Um, First of all, we've got a couple great matchups here. Uh, we've got the Lions at the Niners. We've got the Chiefs at the Ravens. We know where your heart is, Jason, for the Lions Niners. Let's talk the AFC matchup first. Um, it has been not as good of a season, as impressive of a season for Kansas City. However, they have experience. The Ravens have basically rolled everybody this season, barring the collapse against the Browns, the collapse against the Steelers in Pittsburgh, and the collapse to the Colts. I mean, and the last game of the season, well, they didn't play anybody and lost to the Steelers, but they've been in control. What are you guys thinking about Chiefs and Ravens? Madison, what you got?
I feel like I should say that I have learned my lesson not to bet against Patrick Mahomes. I mean, they've figured out a way to get it done. Their defense is really good. I mean, both teams are fairly healthy, unless I'm forgetting someone on the Chiefs that has injured themselves. Did they lose a center?
I don't have an injury report in front of me. Maybe Thuney, is that who you're speaking of?
Yeah, I feel like they lost their maybe. I don't know if he practiced, but anyways, I mean it's going to be a good game. I think probably better than what we maybe would have expected coming into the playoffs. Like I didn't really think. I mean, Kansas City playing the Dolphins, they kind of lucked out there. I thought they would win that one. Didn't really think they'd beat Buffalo at Buffalo, and obviously they got it done.
Jason, what do you think about the Ravens and Chiefs matchup?
So, the Lions played them both this year, and we beat Kansas City in Kansas City, and then Baltimore obliterated us. It was the only game that we were not in. It was embarrassing. Baltimore, when Lamar Jackson is rolling, is pretty much unstoppable. But the Taylor Swift magic, Kansas City, I mean, like Madison said, I thought Buffalo was going to beat them. And then, like, why are we betting against Pat Mahomes? All he does is win. So I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be very close, and it's going to come down to the end.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Lamar. I wouldn't even call him the. Would you call him the X factor? I mean, he's not going to surprise anybody, and he can do everything. The guy,
Yeah, but he's not had a great postseason track record for the most part.
Right. This obviously he's only played the one postseason game, against Houston last weekend. He looked pretty good there. It's really going to depend upon, I think, the defensive strategy of Kansas City. Are they going to be able to lock down the receivers? Is Snead going to be able to do a good job on the outside? And are they going to be able to strategize and not allow Lamar to make the off-schedule plays? There's such that danger always of, hey, if we go man and have our backs to the quarterback, he breaks contain, he's gone. And he's just so elusive. I think the only thing that almost took him out was having a stomach ache in Cleveland a few years ago. But he still managed to come back from the crapper and beat them. I don't know how this happens. I just don't know.
He's unreal. He's unbelievable. He's the MVP for sure. He's going to win MVP. And
yeah,
he deserves it. He had a hell of a season.
He definitely ought to. I like you said, Madison, I don't know about betting against Mahomes and the Chiefs. They've definitely got experience on their side. It's kind of interesting, and I don't know how many people in the Kansas City market might talk about this. Obviously, we're not there, so to necessarily hear it, but everyone in Cleveland talks about salary constraints because of the Deshaun Watson, contract. What about in Kansas City? I mean, their receivers.
Long deal. Oh, not Mahomes.
Right. So their receivers in Kansas City, they couldn't pay Tyreek Hill. I mean, look what they've got there. How much is that hurting them this season when it's really him and Kelsey? And they're praying the other guys can catch the ball.
I don't know. They're in the AFC Championship. How much is it hurting them?
Right. 28 other teams wish they were there.
It didn't look good, but they're still here somehow. They have scraped it together.
Right. No, I get you. It's one of those interesting things that we hear about it as Cleveland fans, but I was wondering if they're saying any or all of the same, similar things in Kansas City, talking about that and the impact of his large contract. Obviously, his winning, and no one's going to talk. And I would venture to guess that in Cleveland, if they win a Super Bowl, no one's going to be talking about Deshaun Watson's
Oh
contract.
yeah, for sure.
So that's going to be a really, really good game in Baltimore. I'm obviously rooting for the Chiefs, or rooting against Baltimore. I'm
Yeah.
against Baltimore. I cannot root for them. And I don't know what's Jason, since you're the only one who's actually in Cleveland, what's the vibe, if anything, that you've gotten from people talking about the Kansas City Baltimore game?
It depends on who you talk to. I mean, obviously, Cleveland fans hate Baltimore, but I just think the average NFL fan, and not me because I'm a Swiftie, but the average NFL fan is so tired of the Taylor Swift stuff, it's driving everybody crazy. And so half of them are rooting for Baltimore just not to see Taylor Swift there.
And to
But
that, I say, why are they showing Eminem in the Detroit games? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Hey, he's from Detroit. I love Eminem.
I know.
When we won Sunday, I was blaring Eminem for the next 24 hours. I was so happy. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think everyone's rooting for Detroit. I mean, the Baltimore Kansas City game is just the appetizer, I think, of everybody in Cleveland, because the Browns and Lions are the only two original franchises to never make a Super Bowl. So they want at least one of us to go. And I was hoping for the Lions Browns Super Bowl. We all were.
Yeah.
But
right.
The Browns were just too injured. I mean, come on. You're in the fourth quarterback. You lost 4 offensive linemen, Nick Chubb, but they had a hell of a season. They should be proud of the Browns. They had a great year.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I've heard so many people or seen comments and this, that, and the other, people being quote unquote chiefed out. And as a Browns fan, it wouldn't sit right to cheer for any team, any like division rival. I can't cheer for Pittsburgh for sure. I definitely am not going to cheer for Baltimore, because we know the backstory there. And same with Cincinnati. I mean, a couple of years ago when people were talking about, oh, Cincinnati, we want them to win. I'm like, are you kidding me? You sure about that?
You know what's weird? Like, everyone in Ohio can't stand Jim Harbaugh, but it seems like everybody likes John Harbaugh.
He's a more likable character.
Yeah. And he's a heck of a coach. Like, they took Lamar Jackson. Wasn't he the last pick in the first round? And people said he can't throw. He's not. And look what he did with him. I mean, turned him into an MVP. And just a fantastic coaching job. Like, look what Freddie Kitchens did with Baker Mayfield that first year. It was the same draft class. Like, imagine if Lamar Jackson went to Freddie Kitchens. He'd probably be out of the league by now.
A very good point. It all depends on where you end up, and the situation around you impacts your level of success, especially in a sport like football. You really, I mean,
absolutely.
We talk. I think in Cleveland we could talk about Tim Couch. If you're in Houston, you could talk about maybe David Carr,
Joey Harrington in Detroit.
Right, all these guys that just got destroyed, and you wonder, is Bryce Young going to have the same fate? I don't know if he's ever really going to get a chance behind such a beat up team. And I don't know.
Baker's OC now. They just hired him today.
Yeah, I know. Wow, they were great. Yeah, Dave.
Well, I mean, he did have Baker with his lowest sack percentage, I believe, and also throwing the ball way faster and not holding it like he had been. So that is what Carolina needs, because Bryce does not have a lot of time behind that O-line.
No.
They should take Mike Evans with them. Mike Evans is a free agent. Maybe they'll take
he's got to come to the Browns. So
okay, there you go.
We're gonna have to count. Yeah, we're gonna have to do that. Sorry, Carolina, you can't have him. You just can't have him.
We can't afford him, but it's fine.
No, but however, did you hear Andrew Berry? The guy seems very confident in his ability to work the salary cap.
I believe it.
He's really good.
I do trust him. He was doing it as a kid. He was writing up all that salary cap stuff as a kid on a piece of paper. I trust it. He knows.
That's just an amazing story. It really is, when you get a chance to hear about those types of things. So just sticking with the AFC for a moment, and Jason, you talked about this a little bit, about how would you feel if the Lions, if they win, if they're going to the Super Bowl, and I wonder about Bills fans. They had the 4 years in a row, 4 years in a row of going to the Super Bowl. Obviously, the first one was the closest, and Scott Norwood, missed the field goal wide right. And the reaction of the fans was, I mean, I did everyone see the poor guy in the crowd who was crying? Of course, the camera guy finds the crying guy, right?
I'm sure he wasn't the only one, too.
I'm sure, but you know, where would you rank that loss if you were a Bills fan? A, it wasn't the Super Bowl. B, it wasn't the AFC Championship game. It's another playoff game. First, second, that would have only tied the game. There's no telling what would have happened after that. It wasn't the game winner, and people are falling to pieces. Am I like? I'm trying to put myself in their shoes. Would I be just as upset, or am I? Would I be crying? Would I be crying, Madison?
Probably. If it were the Browns in that same situation, probably. I mean, I think part of it is it's not just like a loss for this year. Like, I think it is like a real feeling that their window is shut at this point. Because, like, Diggs was kind of a shell of himself going down the stretch. He might not be happy anyways. There was talk that they might still try to fire McDermott. Like, they're a little bit of a mess, I think, right now going forward. There's just a lot of uncertainty. Gabe Davis is a free agent. They have some good tight ends, of course. Obviously, they have Josh Allen, but like the window it gets tighter when you consider, okay, like Patrick Mahomes, we haven't been able to top him. Joe Burrow's back next year. You've got Lamar playing at an MVP level. You've got CJ Stroud coming up looking, pretty decent with the Texans. Like, there's just a number of quarterbacks and quality teams with quality coaching that I think shrinks your window a pretty significant amount. I think that's more of what it is than just like the one singular game.
Or was the person heavily intoxicated?
I mean, it's probably both.
Oh man, what a sight! Jason Kelsey in the crowd, in the suite. That guy's nuts. Love that guy.
That was great.
That is fantastic. That's just awesome. Really
the
awesome.
The Cleveland Charge, the G League basketball team, are doing a Kelsey Brothers night. They're giving away their bobbleheads, and they sold out the first time ever because the rumor is the Kelsey Brothers are going to be there.
I think they mentioned it on their podcast that they would. There won't be a Taylor Swift, though. I guarantee you some people think she will be there, but she will be on tour. Same as with the Super Bowl. She's on tour in Japan the night before, so everybody can
wait a second.
I mean, she can make it. She's got a private jet, and they're ahead.
Conspiracy theory.
In Vegas.
Yep. Here's the conspiracy theory. They won't win because she's got tour, and then they're gonna get mad at Travis, this week. It's gonna be a whole thing. It's gonna be a whole thing. Okay. So switching over to the Lions and the 49ers, obviously your game of interest and probably a good majority of the country's interest. I'm certainly very interested to watch this game. For the Lions, they get the win over the Buccaneers. They got the win the week before in the wild card round over Matt Stafford and the Rams. And this has just been kind of a season that started, it kind of picked up where last season left off. Yeah. Last season, under Dan Campbell, didn't start out so good.
Nope.
They finished strong, and then the coup de grace, they kept the Packers and Aaron Rodgers out of the playoffs with a win at Lambeau, and they just picked right up from there. And Jason, as you and I were talking earlier, and Madison, I was thinking about it today, potentially, if it ends up being the Lions and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, you would have the first game of the NFL season and the last game of the NFL season be between the Lions and the Chiefs. But that night in Kansas City, you didn't know what to think. I think my first thought was, what's wrong with Kansas City as opposed to what's right with the Lions? And so, Jason, as you've watched this season go on and coming through last season, did you expect this?
Yeah, we are well coached. We are so fun to watch. We go for it on every fourth down. We go for it on fourth downs more than any team in NFL history. You know how crazy that is? We fake punts. We kick onside kicks out of nowhere. We run trick plays like 3 times a game. The culture is great. Everyone's bought in under Dan Campbell. We have 2 amazing coordinators. Our offense is electrifying. We have weapons everywhere. And the best part is we're one of the youngest teams in the league. Like all our stars, St. Brown, Hutchinson, Penny Sewell, Jameer Gibbs, you name it, go down there, Brian Branch, are all in their first 3 years. Like we are set up for the next 10 years. And going into this year, I watched Dan Campbell's opening training camp speech, and I had goosebumps. He's like, this is the year we're making the leap. And we did. And everyone's bought in. And when we beat Tampa Bay Sunday, they closed up a Hutchinson. And he looked in the stands and looked like he almost started crying because he used to go to those games as a kid and watch those pathetic Lions teams. And to see, and you talked about that Buffalo Bills fan crying. Well, the game before that was a Lions game, and all our fans were crying, including me, but those were happy tears because we're going to the NFC Championship game for the first time since 1992. It is just an unbelievable feeling. This is the best coach I've ever seen, the best general manager I've ever seen. This is the most talented Lions team I've ever seen. Other than the secondary, we don't have a weakness on this team, and I don't fear anybody. I don't fear San Francisco. I don't fear Baltimore or Kansas City. Bring them all on.
So heading on the road to San Francisco, Madison, what do you expect out of the game? Do you expect? I mean, San Francisco, they won over Green Bay, but they didn't look overly impressive.
No, I mean the weather was pretty bad. Like I've it never rains in California, right? But like all of a sudden it just decided to downpour. But yeah, I mean they didn't look particularly scary by any stretch of the imagination. So I wouldn't necessarily like say, oh yeah, they're the 1 seed, they're the clear winner over Detroit. Like I don't really feel like at this point it's anybody's game. And I do feel, I mean, maybe it is a little bit my heart because I also want Detroit to win because like I don't want a Niners Ravens Super Bowl like that color of the logo projects. I can't do it. I don't want it. Don't want it. So I need the Lions.
Do you know when the last time the Lions won in San Francisco was?
Oh, was it the year that they won a regular championship? They won a regular championship before Super Bowl, right?
1975 was the last year we won in San Francisco. You know how pathetic that is? What a great way to go to the Super Bowl to break that curse.
I saw somebody tweet, like, I don't think they've ever played ever because they can't remember. And that's probably why maybe they blocked it from memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing when you start looking at these teams that don't. I mean, obviously, the way the schedule is made up, you're only going to play certain divisions, certain numbers of times. And then when you figure San Francisco is normally playing the first place schedule.
Yeah, we're last.
Right. Or, I mean, they're not hitting at the same time. I'm sure if you looked at teams like the Browns, you'd be like, when was the last time they played them or played this team in the conference and how so on and so forth. So it is very interesting to look at that. One thing Jason, you were talking about Dan Campbell and how well coached. I didn't even realize this until a couple days ago that apparently they almost made a bit of a snafu as time was running out.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I mean,
I was thinking that during the game. I'm like, why isn't Tampa Bay calling their last time out? I couldn't figure it out. Like, I don't know what they just gave up. It was weird. So then Dan Campbell just kind of said, well, just take a knee and let's run off the field. It was very bizarre.
I am not sure I understand that. I wonder how Tampa fans and fans, of the Buccaneers or your team, if it was your team and they're just like, yeah, whatever.
It's a one possession game. It's an 8-point game. Like anything could have happened. I don't understand why they didn't call timeout, but it was pretty apparent after the first knee they weren't calling timeout. Like they just let it go. It was insane.
I don't get it. Madison, you've been a coach. Have you ever just been like, nah, I'm going to give up?
I have not, but I have coached under a coach who did that. We played the number 1 team in the country. They did go on to win the national championship. They had Randy Moss's daughter on the team. She almost dunked on us, Division III. But yeah, I was trying to scout the game. So we're sitting there watching after we won our first game in NCAA tournament. And I started scouting and she's like, don't bother. I was like, okay. And
wow.
So, I mean, like, it was a game where like a kid on the bench would like make a comment and she's like, oh, you think you can do better? Then you go in, and just like completely gave up from jump. And I was like, I hate this so much. So needless to say, we didn't coach together again.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
pathetic.
That is not good. That
And
is
we were good. We only lost 3 games that whole year.
see. Yeah, you can't take that mentality that you're just gonna roll over and die.
It's a
Eh,
loser's mentality, and that's what you get. You lose when you have that mentality. Yeah. It was interesting.
Absolutely, absolutely. So okay, as we're looking here at the matchup again of the Lions and the 49ers, what I think that we talked a little bit, the question of whether Debo Samuel's going to be able to play, still waiting to find out about his shoulder. But I think that really Christian McCaffrey is the engine. He's the guy that makes that thing go. What can the Lions do to slow him down and kind of take him out of the equation and force Brock Purdy and others to step up?
Well, we have one of the best run defenses in the NFL. We haven't allowed a running back to rush for 100 yards all year on us. The only person who did was Justin Fields. How crazy is that? But our run defense is phenomenal. We sold out this whole season. Like, our defense was terrible last year. So Dan Campbell and our defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn said, let's just stop the run. Stop the run. Let's do that. If they want to throw on us, fine. And we've done a fantastic job of that. So I think we'll do a great job stopping McCaffrey running the ball. Now, him running out the backfield with his screen passes scares the heck out of me because he's so good at that. Like, I don't know how he's always open. It makes no sense. Like, I would probably double him. And George Kittle also is obviously phenomenal, but we've done a pretty good job with tight ends this year. Debo Samuel's the X factor because that's our weakness. We don't have a shutdown corner. Mike Evans was phenomenal against us. I mean, Justin Jefferson can never be stopped. I mean, you name it, number one receiver, they put up career numbers against the Lions. So Debo Samuel plays. That is the X factor. That's the one guy I know we're not going to be able to stop, but I don't fear McCaffrey running the ball at all.
He's also nursing an injury himself. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he looked okay last weekend, but he is
Oh, yeah.
nursing an injury, calf injury, I think.
Yeah, he's a superstar for sure. But that's what the one thing the Lions defense is good at. They're good at stopping the run, and they're good at Aiden Hutchinson getting to the quarterback.
Right. And so I think the other player that we didn't mention or that in talking about the weapons for San Francisco is Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
Defensively, what is going on with Chase Young? Is he a complete poser? Like, I don't see him doing much of anything or really hear his name in these games. And he was so highly touted out of Ohio State. He goes to the Washington football team, the Commanders, and I don't know. And then they trade him away to San Fran. I still don't think he's really hit what everybody thought his potential would be.
And we have the best offensive line in football, so he's going to be going against Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell. So I like that matchup a lot. And Penei Sewell's first ever game was against the 49ers, and he did a hell of a job blocking Nick Bosa. So Sewell's only gotten better since then. He's probably the best offensive tackle in football right now. He's unbelievable. That's where Gibbs and Montgomery get these huge runs. They just run behind him. He plows over 2 guys at a time. He's so fun to watch. And he actually caught a pass last year on a 3rd and 5 for a first down that wrapped up the game. So, yeah, Chase Young, I thought he was going to – and Akuda was the 3rd pick in that draft, and neither of them have panned out. It's crazy to me.
It is. What is going on, though, with Taylor or with the offensive lineman? Is it Decker or Ragnow?
Ragnow, yeah, he's playing with a sprained knee, a sprained ankle, and I think they said dislocated elbow, and he's still playing. He is such a badass. So they interviewed him after the game for the first time ever, and he had his helmet on, and Goff's like, you got to take the helmet off. So they took it off, and they gave – I mean, he was the player of the game because he was just destroying Tampa Bay's defensive line, and that Jahmyr Gibbs 31-yard touchdown that broke their backs, I mean, he had a whole – as wide as a semi-truck because our offensive line's so good. So, yeah, it's been a long time. Obviously Barry Sanders fan, and we did not have that good of an offensive line. He just made spectacular runs. I can only imagine Barry Sanders running behind this offensive line. He'd be running for 2,500 yards a season easily. This line is unbelievable.
Yeah, that is amazing. What they have been able to accomplish. I will say this. I have got to say this as a Cleveland fan, Jason. Thank you, Lions, for quieting the Baker Mayfield, the Baker Bros.
I thought Baker played a good game until that.
He did absolutely. But
we all knew that was coming, though. That was
That was Derek Barnes' first ever interception in 3 years.
Heck,
So he gave the post-game speech in the locker room, and he's like, "I've been waiting my whole career for this." And there wasn't a dry eye because he almost didn't make the team. And then to him to seal the game to send the NFC Championship was great. But yeah, I thought Baker played great. Mike Evans was phenomenal. Baker kept coming back. Every time the Lions scored, they scored. That second half was a shootout. It was a heck of a game to watch.
It definitely was, but it was Baker Mayfield did Baker Mayfield things. Unfortunately for him, and that's what he did while he was here in Cleveland most of the time. When he had an opportunity, unfortunately, it didn't work out so often. But
I think he's going to get paid this offseason a lot of money. I
right.
think him and Kirk Cousins are the only really two good free agent quarterbacks. I think they're going to get paid a lot.
Right, but now that Dave Canales is leaving, is that going to affect him if they lose Mike Evans? How's he going to? I will be very curious to see if he turns out to be kind of like Danny Dimes. Now, Danny Dimes got injured, but you see, that's a lot of money.
I think he'll resign, but can't you see one day Baker Mayfield playing for the Raiders? Doesn't it just seem like he's born to play for the Raiders?
It is possible, but I would have thought, the only way that would have worked is if Jim Harbaugh was going to Las Vegas, and that seems like that would have been a good personality mesh.
I mean, they need a quarterback.
They do, and we talked, Madison. I think we talked about that last week. That's kind of a strange situation there, because Jimmy G is not the quarterback. Aiden O'Connell, really? Are we really gonna be putting our future on Aiden O'Connell? Eek, I don't think so. So now as we go, well, let me ask you this, Jason. So we talked about this. If the Lions win, not sure how you're going to react, but
no one is.
You don't know. How much are you willing to pay to attend the Super Bowl in Las Vegas?
So I've been thinking about that. So if they do win Sunday, I am going to go to Vegas. Obviously, I mean, it's once in a lifetime. I've been waiting my whole life for this. Now, I don't even know if I'll go to the game. I might just go to a Lions backers bar in Vegas.
Okay.
Because it depends. I mean, it depends on the average ticket, right? Like, I don't want to sit in the last row when I could just be at a sports bar with all my Lions fans and hugging them and high-fiving them and enjoying the nice Vegas weather, getting out of the cold. So I don't know. If the game was in Detroit, obviously Super Bowls aren't usually at the home stadium. I would go there. But I don't know. My friend was at the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and he said it's such a corporate environment. Like, there weren't very many diehard fans. It was like big corporations and their CEOs. And he said that, Cavs playoff games were a lot louder and more fun. So I don't know. I mean, let's cross that bridge when we get there. The Golden Gate Bridge. Let's cross that Golden Gate Bridge when we get there. Beat the 49ers, and then I'll figure it out. But yeah, I definitely do want to go to Vegas.
Fantastic. And how do you think this will compare? Okay, so as a Cleveland fan and watching the Cavs win their first title in franchise history, how do you think this ranks with that for Lions fans, for yourself, so on and so forth? How does that rank and compare?
So you only have your first time once, right? And I think the Cavs winning the championship, I don't know if anything will top it because of how they did it, beating the greatest regular season team of all time, coming back 3-1, doing it the way they did with LeBron and Kyrie going crazy. And I was downtown that night and celebrating with 500,000 people in the streets and just hugging and high-fiving everybody that was near us. I don't think that'll ever be topped. And plus the weather, it was 80 and sunny. It was a beautiful day. I don't think that'll ever be topped. And I love football more than basketball, but that championship meant so much to the city of Cleveland. And to see all my friends and family, I was with my brother, my cousins, all my best friends, and to see how much that championship meant to this city. It felt like the black cloud got lifted off Cleveland that day. I still feel that way. Like, I feel like now we're the city of champions, and that broke the curse. I really do feel that way. So that'll be tough I don't know. Call me on Monday. I'll tell you if anything changed, because I've never been to a Super Bowl, and I've never tasted the Super Bowl, because the one year we made the championship game, we were such big underdogs, and we got blown out in Washington. It wasn't even a good game, and we put Andre Ware in the second half. He threw a pick six. It was terrible. But this team, I really believe in, So yeah, call me on Monday. I'll let you know how it feels compared to 2016. But that was the championship of a lifetime.
Definitely, definitely. Okay, so general NFL news. What do we think about Harbaugh to the coaching carousel? Harbaugh to the Chargers. Madison, what do you think? Is that a good fit? Will that benefit the Chargers? Will that toughen them up?
I think he's dodging those NCAA sanctions, is what he's doing. Like I mean, you put up the blurb, like I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. Sure, sure, sure. We all know what you're doing. But yeah, I mean, I think it should hopefully be good. I keep seeing this thing about how Herbert is like America's quarterback and everybody loves him. And I don't really like feel that's the vibe. And people are like, maybe he can finally make him into the quarterback everyone thinks he is. And I'm like, he's a pretty good quarterback. I mean, it's not like their problem has been offense. Their defense was so terrible that they put up points for the most part. They did swing and miss on Quentin Johnson, which is upsetting for me because I drafted him in Dynasty and that one hurt. I don't know what I'm going to do with him now. But I got Marvin Harrison Jr. coming, so it'll be okay. Reinforcements. But yeah, I mean, I think it'll be fine. He's obviously won at the professional level as well, so I'm sure that will inevitably carry over. But he's kind of in a tough division. You got Kansas City, you got Patrick Mahomes, you've also got the Raiders, I guess, who kind of put some stuff together a little bit towards the end, and they obviously kept Pierce. So we'll see how it goes. It's hard to win in the big leagues, so we'll see.
Doesn't it feel good that we don't have to talk about head coaching openings in Cleveland, Detroit right now? We probably have the two top guys are coach of the year. It's going to be Stefanski, Campbell. Either way, 1-2.
Well, Ryan's won it for, what is it, the Pro Football Writers of America?
Oh, yeah, him too.
Which was a little surprising. Right. I mean, he did a great job, not discounting that, but he also lost to the Browns and Kevin Stefanski with Joe Flacco at quarterback. But then they beat him in the playoffs. But voting had wrapped up, so we don't talk about that.
Right. Good point. Good point there. And I'm not sure about Harbaugh's impact on the Chargers, at least not this season. I think if you give him a few seasons, he's won wherever he's gone, however the methods, but I think he wears out his welcome too. Like
that's the best opening, right? The Chargers are the best opening with all the talent they have. Herbert, they have a top 5 pick. I mean, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Keenan Allen, they got stars everywhere. They just got to get it together.
And they also need to stay healthy. That's also been a major downfall for them is just the injuries that have piled up. But I do think that, like, what is it in baseball? They've got the wins against replacement, the WAR stat. I feel like Harbaugh is like worth like 2.5 wins or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I think if I'm using the terminology right, but you see what I'm saying? Brandon Staley did an awful job. You blew a 27-0 lead in the playoffs. You constantly screwed up close games. I don't know how it even took as long as it did take for him to get fired. That was ridiculous. And so I feel like even just slightly better game management, it should get them at least 2 or 3 more wins. We shall see, because I don't think he's on the analytics boat either.
Neither Dan Campbell.
Well, if he's going for 4th downs, he is, because that is very much an analytics-driven decision where everybody says go. Numbers always say go.
I don't think it's analytics. I think he's just got the biggest you-know-what in the NFL, and he's going to go for it every time. He is the best. Like, I love it. I love when it's 4th and 5 at our own 35. I'm like, we're going for it. My friend's like, you're crazy. We do, and we get it. I'm like, that's who we are.
It really is amazing just to see the differences in personalities in the head coaches around the NFL or around the league, around all the professional leagues, the coaches, et cetera. It's really interesting. And it all depends on the personalities of your players, if they're going to respond to that and how long they're going to respond to certain voices and messages and whether it's going to wear out its welcome. It'll be very, very interesting to see how this all plays out.
What do you two think about the Browns getting rid of their offensive coaches and redoing that room?
I'm kind of happy about. I mean, I don't like have anything against AVP, but I just think they all think too similarly and they need some new, fresh perspective. But it depends on who they hire, right? Like if they bring somebody in who runs a similar offense, like they need somebody who does a lot of motion, like in the Miami Niners realm. I think that is what I personally would prefer. Whether I don't know that they really brought anybody in. They brought somebody in that was like a Rams keep
You hired Deuce Staley, running backs coach.
Right.
I love Deuce. He was great in Detroit. He totally got screwed over by the Panthers. So he left the Lions. He didn't want to leave, but he had a sick mom in Carolina.
uh,
So the Lions gave him the blessing to go there, and then he got blown out. And so
Yeah.
I'm glad he's landed on his feet in Cleveland. He's a great coach.
I can't
Look
believe
what he did with Jamal Williams.
hire at all at head coach. That blows my
Jamal
mind.
Williams had a career year with him as running back coach. Jamal Williams fell off the cliff this year. So Deuce Staley and Nick Chubb, look out.
Right. And so just wanted to let you know, comment here, Elizabeth, Charger fan, she said the other wall Harbaugh is up against is the aging players because the Chargers are not a young team. And then that is true. That is very true. So I was going to get to that actually. Good point. Good call there, Jason, about the offensive, the question about the offensive staff changes. First of all, we had the whole hubbub this week with whether or not Stump Mitchell broke some code talking about Kareem Hunt and stuff, but that's neither here nor there. But
January in Berea, that's what we call it. Every January in Berea, there's drama.
Although I will say this is a lot less drama than we're used to.
Right.
A heck of a lot less drama than we're
Thank
used
God.
to. Yeah, I mean, because last year we were going into this and there were questions about Stefanski. There were still questions about Watson. We've got that, kind of going on, his health and such. But yeah, so we got Deuce Staley that at the running backs coach. I think that's a positive step. It looks like Bill Callahan, it appears, is going to stick around as the offensive line coach. We got Tommy Reese coming out of Alabama to coach the tight ends. Okay, hopefully he can replicate with David Njoku what Njoku did this season. And a lot of that, I mean, it was crazy how well he started playing once the quarterback situation kind of worked itself out. I don't know if it would have all worked the same way had Deshaun played all season, but obviously once Flacco came in, the veteran presence, he really connected with him. It was amazing. I'm reading here. So we've had a number of interviews for the offensive coordinator position, and I'm really wondering, is the reason we don't have a coordinator yet because there are issues surrounding whether or not that person will get to call the plays? Do you think that's that is a deterrent to anybody, Madison?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's why we haven't hired anybody yet, but I do think that whoever we hire will call plays. But I think I've seen it said a couple times. I think it's probably accurate. I think it's the Rams quarterback coach because the Rams DC just got hired right to Atlanta. And so the thought is that he will follow him. And so it's like, does he get that job or not? And if not, we want him and we will offer. But if, it comes down to it, he's probably going with his DC. So I think that is more likely the issue, which is interesting because it's kind of a stark difference from how we handled Schwartz last year, where we were the first to move. We didn't want anybody else to get our guy. So it is a little bit different, but I think that might possibly be playing a role. I don't think it has anything to do with like debate over who should call plays.
Okay. And I see that I just am reading Scott Petrak on Brown Zone, and he's talking about that I think on Friday, it looks like Kellen Moore might be coming in. I mean, obviously with a change of the guard in Los Angeles for the Chargers, he's available. So I guess he's available. So he's going to get interviewed. And we've talked to the quarterbacks coach from Houston, Johnson.
Oh yeah, he's also maybe going to get an OC job if it's Slowick. Is that how you say his name? The offensive coordinator,
yes.
Right? So yeah, he might get promoted in Houston. So that if he gets a job, which maybe he won't now because there's less openings. So maybe we can steal the quarterback. It is the quarterback coach off of Houston that I'm thinking of, not the Rams. But I think we also interviewed the Rams guy.
Right. And so do we find it interesting at all that Belichick didn't end up getting hired in Atlanta? Or do you think that there was kind of maybe a power struggle there where he wanted more control than they were willing to give up? And, I don't know. Thoughts?
I mean, he's Bill Belichick. He probably wanted everything, and he just probably put all his Super Bowl rings on the table and said, "I'm the new king." You know what I mean? So, yeah. I mean, what are you going to say to that? But I don't know. So there what 2 openings left, right? Seattle and Washington.
I believe you are. I believe you are correct. The dominoes have kind of started falling rapidly over the past 24 hours or so. I don't know about look. That Atlanta job is not as good as it looks on paper.
They have a lot of talent, though.
They do, but they don't have a quarterback.
Right.
They don't have a quarterback. Give me a
If
place.
Justin Fields is available, you pull the trigger if you're Atlanta. If
And he will be. He's from Atlanta, right? He's from Georgia, right?
I believe you're correct. Because he started at University of Georgia before transferring to Ohio State. That would be a good
Imagine him running on that turf indoors too, because he's the best running quarterback I've ever seen. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, this is all. It's interesting the way it plays out. And then another point I saw about the Bill Belichick piece of the puzzle is if let's say he doesn't get a job this year, it could be Sean Payton-esque, where you step away for a year, and then when teams start to scuffle next year, the voices start getting louder, and people start talking about and you start hearing the Bill Belichick rumors about where he's going to go the next season, and maybe he's in a better position to get what he wants. But I know that around here, in Richmond, I had read and heard talk of the Commanders as a possibility for him. Maybe it still is an opportunity that he would take to go to the Commanders. They've got a high draft pick. They can potentially get a franchise quarterback and build around what they've got. Although they traded off a lot of pieces last season, I would certainly not be upset if the Browns could pry away, I don't know, Terry McLaurin. He's a pretty solid receiver. We could use one of those guys.
Yeah, a week ago, the Lions thought they were going to lose both our coordinators. Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn were going to get head coaching jobs. Now we're down to 2 openings. Maybe we keep them both. That'd be a dream come true. But I heard Ben Johnson to Washington's a pretty much a done deal. I don't know if that's true or not. But, I mean, they'd have the second pick. And I think he went to North Carolina. Or he has a connection with the North Carolina quarterback somehow.
Yeah,
interesting. And Washington would have the second pick. So they could get him.
I don't know. Madison, you and I talked about it. It's like, does Washington dare go back to the North Carolina Tar Heel well one more time?
I mean, I watched Drake May throw a left-handed touchdown this past season, so I like Drake May. But, I mean, he didn't have any O-line help, and he really didn't have any receiving help outside of Tez, who was out for the beginning of the year.
Former Kent State guy.
Is he?
Yeah.
Yep. He crushed it under Sean Lewis. Then Lewis gets lured away and gets screwed by Dion. And Kent State loses all their players.
It's been a disaster.
The NIL.
Lewis is the head coach of San Diego State now, so he landed on his feet.
Which is fantastic. I mean, good luck to him. It really does suck. I mean, we're talking about just a little bit touching on the NIL and college football and how crazy all of that is, with players just transferring left and right and all over the place, and kind of a nutso thing there. So for the Browns here, just wanted to touch on this. You talked a little bit earlier. We're talking about who won with D'Amico Ryans getting the Pro Football Writers of America Coach of the Year. Myles Garrett gets the DPOY award. Do you think that should be such a big deal to these guys, or am I out of touch when I think, man, shouldn't you just want to win championships? Shouldn't your goal just be like, look, I want to win a title. Forget all the awards. Get me a title. I mean, do you think LeBron would trade a couple of his Kia MVP awards for a couple more rings?
Yeah, but it's cool to win those awards. It's awesome. Like, Rookie of the Year is cool. MVP is cool. That's I like that stuff. And then individual awards have always been there, and everybody wants to be the MVP. Everybody wants to be Rookie of the Year. I mean, when CJ Stroud wins Rookie of the Year, I bet he gives an amazing speech.
And you need it to get into the hall, and we all know Miles wants to go to the hall.
That is true, because he won't go in until he's actually inducted.
Yep.
That is interesting. Very interesting there. So quickly moving away from football here, Cavs last night in Milwaukee, they were not able to replicate their performance from a week ago when they slaughtered the Bucks by 40 points. And as you said, Madison, I get your text. I'm like, what happened here? What happened in Milwaukee? They fired their coach, and that was crazy. Where do you think? I mean, I'm not going to overreact to the loss to the Bucks. But where do you guys think the Cavs are realistically in the Eastern Conference picture, considering where we are from an injury standpoint and when we get back to full strength? What's the potential here?
Jason? I mean, the sky's the limit. They've been tremendous. I mean, they won 8 straight before. I mean, I knew we were going to lose to Milwaukee. They just fired their coach. They wanted to make a statement. So we ran into a buzzsaw with no Garland and Mobley, but they're both due back in the next couple of weeks. The Cavs are playing tremendous, and all that JB Bickerstaff hate has gone out the window from these people because he's been unbelievable. Like, we thought the season was over when Garland and Mobley got announced they were injured on the same day. I was sitting at Slyman's eating lunch. I'm like, oh my God, Garland's out. Put my phone down, picked up. Oh my God, Mobley's out. So, but Bickerstaff's did a phenomenal job, and we got guys like Sam Merrill stepping up and CJ Porter. Like, Okoro's playing great. He's become the defensive stopper we all thought he could be. Like, I don't fear really anybody in the East, maybe the Boston. I think the Cavs could be a top 4 seed again. Now, of course, we got to see how they do in the playoffs this year.
That's a big question. What do you think, Madison?
Yeah, I know, like, a lot of people have been harping on the soft part of their schedule, blah, 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 which, sure, I get. Like,
you got to win those.
Well, yeah, but it's not just like they won those, right? Like, the difference between a good team and a great team, if a good team is supposed to win by 10, a great team wins by 20. And they pretty much did that to the full effect through that 8-game winning streak. And obviously they did lose last night. I honestly think Tristan getting suspended probably had a lot to do with how they came out flat. He does all the little things that give you energy. And I think we just didn't have that. Obviously, that's a problem. I think we're going to have to trade or pick somebody up as a backup center for sure. If only, like, just an energy, like, I don't even need him to score. I don't need him to score. Just go get me a rebound, go bang around. Like, that's what you need him for in the playoffs, right? Like, against the Knicks, that's what we needed last year. So I think that maybe shocked them a bit, and obviously having Giannis back helps the Bucks tremendously. But with the Doc hire, I am not at all scared of them in the playoffs now. So they're going to flame out like Doc always does. So good for them. That was a great choice.
Yeah, I'm actually less worried about them. Hey, and I know we had more on the news on the injury front. Did you see this? Ty Jerome out indefinitely.
I was wondering because no one has ever said anything. He sprained his ankle in like the second game, and no one said anything about him, but he's always on the bench.
Right.
He had surgery today, right? Is that
yes, arthroscopic surgery. There was some impingement right ankle, and now that's kind of a crazy story there. But I think that not having him around has probably benefited some of the other guys. I mean, Sam Merrill getting a shot and really showing up so far. Hope that keeps up. Craig Porter Jr., like you mentioned, Jason, et cetera. I mean, wow.
He kind of gets the Jetty treatment, though. Like, he plays well, and then he just, like, magically disappears from the lineup, and then he'll come back, and he'll have a good game, and you're like, can we get a little consistency?
Yeah,
Sam Merrill's the story of the season for the Cavs, and what a story! We have Merrill mania on Twitter. Every time he starts lighting up threes, who would have thought? Nobody. We had him as the 15th man on the bench. We thought he'd just playing blowouts, and now he's winning games for us. He's tremendous.
There was no injury news on him, was there? Because he looked like he tweaked a calf yesterday.
I didn't see anything.
I have not read anything today. All right. 2 more quick things here. Quick segment. All right. Because I told you guys about this, and I was thinking about it. Do you ever have one of those movies or shows or things like that, and specifically movies, that you watched and you're like, man, this thing is hilarious. It is a great movie. But then years later, you look back at it and you're like, that was the most not because it was an awful movie in terms of like, oh, that's a bad movie. Just like the production quality was terrible. The premise was awful. You still laugh your butt off when you watch it. But I was wondering, because I've got my thought, do you guys have a favorite movie that when you look back, you realize it was pretty awful? Madison, what you got?
I don't know if either of you will have seen this movie, but we'll give it a shot. I can quote this movie from beginning to end. Actually, for Christmas one year, my friend got me a poster with all of the quotes from the movie, but I think it has to be She's the Man for me, because the storyline, number one, is just terribly unbelievable that like we're really going to buy Amanda Bynes as her brother. Sure, absolutely, totally do. But I just love that movie. The jokes are really stupid, but I laugh every time, and I watch it when I need a pick me up. But yeah, I still love it, but it is a little cringy, I guess. Not what you would call true quality cinema.
Gotcha. What about you, Jason?
This is going to be a very unpopular opinion, but I think Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Watching it now, I don't think it's funny at all. I don't know. When I was younger, I thought it was hilarious. Then it came out, I'm like, this isn't. Why am I not laughing? I don't know. So I know it's an unpopular opinion. People love that movie, but it doesn't do it for me anymore. Now, Caddyshack, Animal House, those still do it for me.
They hold up.
Yeah.
Those movies definitely hold up. No, the movie I watched, and my brother and I were talking about it. There were two movies that we watched as kids, and they were hysterical, and they're terrible movies. One is called Hamburger, the Motion Picture, and the other one is called Moving Violations. The premises in these movies is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, and yet for some reason they were just hilarious when we were kids and we're watching them growing up, and amazing as I now realize how bad and blatantly bad the storylines were. People were getting sent to traffic school and getting their cars impounded for getting a speeding ticket. For what did the one person do? He had a puppet stage that got pushed, a mobile puppet stage that was pushed down the road, and they took away his license. And I'm really not sure how that works. And why would their car get impounded? These things do not add up. They had to go to traffic school. Not so sure about that, but funny nonetheless. One other thing that I was asking you guys about, when you guys were going to college, did you guys have a favorite party game that made you, maybe you played, and whenever you'd go out with a group of friends? Jason, what was going on for you at KSU?
Speed quarters. Quarters. You bounce the quarter into the cup, and you got to do a shot. I was good at like rolling it off my nose and bouncing in. I loved that game. I probably played 10,000 games of quarters in college. I was also there for 8 years. So, but anyway, it was a blast. I loved, and beer pong number 2. Those are my 2 favorite for sure.
You were a veteran. Madison, did you have a favorite game of choice, whether it's cards or Jenga or what you got?
No, I didn't drink in college, so that's why he's saying that. But I will lean on one of my teammates, and this isn't a game, but it's the funniest thing that I can remember, which I will coin it as a game, which is trade drinks with the random guy walking down the train tracks, which was a very sketchy moment.
That's awesome.
I got to witness. So they traded drinks and each took a sip. And then we got to where we were going, and she was like, I just traded drinks with the homeless man. And I was like, I think you did.
That's awesome.
Hopefully you're okay. Let me know if you're feeling woozy.
That's hilarious. I love it. Well, that guy's just carrying a 40, maybe some laser. How about some Mickey's Ice?
We won't call out who it was.
Yeah, well, no, we won't. We don't want to do that
now, which could be any of my teammates.
we won't do that. We will not do that. All right. Well, with all that being said, it is now time for us to tell everybody what has us going nuclear. Madison, will you do us the honors and tell us what has you going nuclear this week?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I've had a pretty okay week. I had my alumni game, which was awesome. So I'll tell a quick, brief story. We were playing our alumni game. We have actual referees, God bless them, because we were not in regular basketball shape by any stretch. And I don't think they were fully prepared for that. But the funny part was one of my teammates' young daughters ran onto the floor in the middle of the game because she had to tell her mom that she needed to go to the bathroom. And so the referees just are like, whistle, I guess. And she's like, okay, we'll go with you. Like the whole family's there. So she could have gone with anybody. But she's like, I got to tell mom, got to tell her. And then the other thing that I will say that is also not like a negative, but South Carolina plays LSU tonight in women's basketball. It's 1-9. South Carolina, I think, is the only undefeated team, men or women. So tune in for that one.
And I wanted to ask you, Jason, you'll appreciate this. Madison, how was your one-on-one basketball workout
Oh,
at
yes.
Swish House with former Kent State legend Trevor Huffman?
Yes, I am still hurting from that, but it was a lot of fun. They had a pretty good amount. I guess they started last week. But yeah, I walked in and like people that I had already been there were coming up and introducing themselves. So it's like a good camaraderie thing. And they do say you can step out if you need a break. But you really can't. I don't feel like you could and like get away with it. You know, like you feel like you have to keep going. And I did the warm up and I was like, this is a warm up. Are we sure? Are we sure it's not more than a warm up? I wish I had it before the game though, but I'm going to learn all these moves that I didn't know before. It's like the pro hop we learned.
Oh, that's
you
amazing.
couldn't do that in the ODAG. Referees would call a travel on you for sure. But you know, it's cool to learn, and it was fun, and I burned a whole lot of calories, which is the main goal in my current adult life.
Yeah, that's Swish House for anyone who's wondering. That's Swish House. They've just opened up down in Raleigh. And for our Kent State folks, that's Trevor Huffman is part of the one of the founders of the business.
That's really cool.
Jason, what has you going nuclear this week?
I'll give you one hint. So after we won Sunday, my phone was just totally blowing up. My Facebook page was blowing up. And my friend looked at me and he's like, why are so many people texting you and calling you? I'm like, because I'm literally the only Lions fan anyone knows in Northeast Ohio. Like if the Browns win, you could text 1 million people, right? So it's been so cool to hear from people I haven't heard from for so long, family members across the country, everybody rooting for the Lions for me because they've seen all the pain and misery I've gone through my whole life being a Lions fan. And it's just, we're on the cusp of doing something that no Lions team has ever done and no Lions fans ever seen. And, that's all everyone's been talking to me this week. I've been wearing Lions gear to my bar every day for weeks. And I've been telling these people I've been waiting my whole life to wear a Lions shirt in the end of January, because we're still alive. We're one of the 4 teams left. So yeah, it's all building to Sunday. I can't wait. It's going to be spectacular when we take the field. I'm going to probably have a tear in my eye as soon as they kick off and then be locked in for the game and see what happens.
The waiting will be the hardest part, obviously, having to sit with that at the end of the day. So what has me going nuclear this week, it's a reoccurring theme. Unfortunately, I think that my friends like to just troll me and give me grief. We talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the show, the conspiracy theories and people who say that football and sports, everything is rigged, everything. I am sick and tired of everybody coming up with this baloney. It's absolute malarkey. And you keep spreading this nonsense and people seem to believe it. I can't believe that people take this much time to spread false rumors. The person literally said in this one video on Instagram, it's like the field goal that was missed by Buffalo. They suggested that there were magnets that could have made the ball move like that wide right. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And to get people to conspire, to get athletes, to get professionals to screw themselves out of victory is asinine. And that, folks, is what has me going nuclear this week. So, Jason, good luck on the game Sunday.
Thank you.
Enjoy it.
I will.
Enjoy it. As you know, I mean, sports and stuff like that, but as a Lions fan, I say enjoy it. And we'll be watching and rooting and thinking of you. We're going to need a full report here, one way or another. If you cry, I'd like to see that because that would one way in tears of joy or of sadness.
I went live on Facebook after we beat Tampa Bay, and I was running around my house at M&M, and I got a lot of people commenting on that. They were happy for me, and yeah. So I can only imagine if we're going to the Super Bowl. I don't know what will happen.
Well, that'll be something to see there, and good luck with the bar. Can't wait for the grand opening of headquarters, Cleveland Sports Bar and Grill, and we're gonna post up. I'll make sure I post up the website because I definitely want to If folks that follow me, if we got Cleveland people here, want them to hit your place up, I'm sure you're actually more popular than I am. So, if
Yeah,
anything, I need.
we have a Facebook page right now, and people are going crazy on it. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I will make sure that I post that. Madison, thank you as always. Appreciate everyone being here. And until next time, for Jason Heron, for Madison Delaney, I'm Ethan Greenberg. You've been watching Going nuCLEar, full blown coverage of the land.